Welcome to the PI Podcast, your destination for everything NFL, discussing the latest news and providing in-depth analysis of every NFL game. And now, here are your hosts, Ian and Tesh.
Hey guys, what is up and welcome to the PI Podcast, episode 9, which is insane. And first off, before I start, Ian, we have a lot to talk about, but thank you guys on TikTok for 600 followers and going up. I think I saw like 620 or 30 even, last time I checked. But 600 followers. Thank you guys for all the support on TikTok. It's been blowing up. Definitely we enjoy making TikToks and stuff like that. Ian's excited. I'm excited. We have a lot more plans, videos coming out on YouTube, especially tomorrow. You guys don't want to miss it. I don't want to spoil anything, but we got a big reaction video coming out tomorrow. So you guys will see that tomorrow. And
yeah, so we're super excited. We probably not going to have a super long episode tonight. We've not had a lot of really big news this past week. We are going to go over quite a few things, though. We've got some new overtime rules. We've got some signings. We got Bruce Arians retiring. So we got a pretty good episode today. We've got some details to go over with some of that stuff. And I'll let Pritesh take it away.
yeah, so first off, what we're gonna talk about is some of the Jaguars' key signings. Well, not key signings, but they had a decent
It's
signing. Kinda, sort of. They signed Arden King, and that means less playing time for Clavion Chason maybe, or even Clavion Chason getting cut. And definitely signing him. I guess they're gonna rotate both of them. I bet. I don't think they're gonna cut Chase on. I think they're just gonna rotate in between and see who does better throughout the season. But I really think that Jaguars defense is improving and the offense is loaded now and a little stacked at some level, and they're gonna be playing really well. Hopefully, defense plays as well as the offense, or vice versa. It's gonna be really fun to see Trevor Lawrence and company play Jaguars football.
Yeah, this is really interesting too because the Jaguars have not addressed defensive end yet at all. And it was kind of a 100%. It's going to be Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. I still think it's Aiden Hutchinson at 1, but this is a really interesting signing because now they've upgraded their offensive line. They got a guard. They used a franchise tag on their left tackle. They've made some moves at running back. They've made 2 moves at wide receiver. They've made room at linebacker, D tackle, 2 corners. So the big things that they haven't worked on was safety and defensive end. But we did draft a safety last year. So really, defensive end is like the one move where like, wow, we haven't done it. It's got to be Aiden Hutchinson. But now we just got a good rotational piece at the end. So I still think it's Aiden Hutchinson, but I don't think we're locked at Aiden Hutchinson. So this could mean possibly trading back. It could mean Evan Neal. I don't think we're going to go Evan Neal because we did just franchise tag our left tackle, but we still kind of have a hole at center or left guard, and our right tackle is not the best. So this is going to be now. I don't know who we're drafting at number 1. I think it's Hutchinson. I've got a hunch that it's Hutchinson, but they could surprise me.
Yeah, there's a big time hole at center because Brandon Linder, he retired recently, so this week, so that's good. That's not, and you guys were already working on your O line, and that doesn't help out the center being going retired. I'm surprised he didn't stay at least one more season, just because of how Trevor Lawrence is playing and everything, and like they had a chance of like doing something this year. So I'm surprised he retired. A little bit surprised, but he was getting older, so fully expected. But he was a big centerpiece for your offensive line, and now you have to replace him with someone new. And
Yeah, this is a good draft for it though.
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of pieces on O-line in this draft. Like we were talking about with the Falcons or our last episode, this is a really good defensive and offensive line draft. Offensive line is like the third best position, and I think D line and safety and like corners are all like in the top 5.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Jaguars do with number 1 pick. I still believe they're gonna go Aiden Hutchinson. It's like pretty confirmed right now, but
Yeah,
it'd be surprising. It'd be a lot of fun to see them even pick a wide receiver, or even the offensive tackle. There's lots of offensive tackles in this draft.
I think wide receivers too early at 1. I think there's some good ones, but I think it would almost be a waste to do it at 1. I don't think any wide receiver is worth the number 1 overall pick. I mean,
there's so many defensive ends in this draft too, and defensive tackles. They could go anybody they wanted. I mean, unless they trade down. I mean, you could get some good draft stock with trading down and everything. So that actually is a possibility. But Hutchinson is right there for the taking, and I don't see the Jaguars not taking him.
Yeah, one of our next videos, we're actually going to do a mock draft. Maybe it'll be on the podcast. Maybe it'll be a video. We'll do our very own mock draft. Me and Tesh will sit together. We'll come up with a good, solid round 1 mock draft and either do it live or we'll do it, just make a video on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think we don't know too much about college football as some other people do, but definitely it's gonna be fun doing that mock draft and seeing who we think is gonna be picked in the first round and even the whole draft. So that's gonna be really fun. And staying in the AFC South, Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, called the Carson Wentz era a mistake he couldn't wait to fix, per Ian Rappaport, noting the loss to the Jaguars to lose their playoff spot was the final straw. No disrespect, no disrespect to Jacksonville, but I mean, they are the worst team in the league. You play well and hard for the first quarter or so, and they're looking to go to their locker room and clean it out. I've never seen anything like that in my life. You say, my God, there's something wrong here. It needs to be corrected. I think that we feel like that's what we did. And it's dude, just that first line, like calling Carson Wentz era a mistake. You've only had it for 1 year. That's I don't care how bad your quarterback is. That's super disrespectful to Carson Wentz. And they traded him, to Washington, and now he has something to prove himself. I mean, that's just very disrespectful in like a professional sports sense. It's not like he's like a high schooler kid who needs to practice or something like that. He's a grown adult and has kids, has a wife, has a whole home. That's a very, very disrespectful. And he even disrespected the Jaguars. Even said he said no disrespect. Like that did anything.
That is that. I mean, we are division rivals, so I can. I mean, he's not wrong. We were the worst team in the NFL last year and the year before. I mean, when you go back to back drafting number 1 overall, and like the year before you were a top 5 pick. I mean, it's safe to say you're the worst team in the NFL. I mean, I hate to have to admit it, but I mean, we were the laughing stock of the NFL last year and the year before. I mean, especially at head coach when we had Urban Meyer, the whole debacle there. I mean, you got to think we had an interim head coach coaching the last game of the season, and granted, Darrell Bevell is fighting for a coaching job. But come on now. The Colts should have never lost that game. And like Jim Irsay said, he also, I didn't quote everything like on our little notes, but he also said that there was a huge lack of leadership with Carson Wentz. And when you're a quarterback, that's the most important part of your job.
Yeah, honestly, Carson Wentz was a big reason why they lost that last game. He played awful. And Trevor Lawrence outplayed him in that game. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, he had the whole season to like train and stuff and like practice, but still, if you're a veteran quarterback like Carson Wentz and you go out there and you just underperform in the most important game of probably your career on the Colts, then you should play well. But it also goes deeper to the coaching as well, because I know Carson Wentz played horrible, and he did play horrible. I'm not gonna say he didn't, but the coaching wise, they should feel ashamed of themselves too. I mean, there's got to be something
Yeah.
with the coaching as well that made that. How can you go into the worst team in the NFL's stadium at their place in Jacksonville, where many teams have beaten the Jaguars, except the Bills, because the Bills are Bills. Just kidding. But how do you go in there and lose that game to fight for your playoff spot when you have the number one running back in the league, the leading rusher in the league, and then you have some key pieces on defense? Darius Leonard, you have a really good defensive front, DeForest Buckner. I just can't understand. It has to do with a lot with Carson Wentz, but a lot with coaching as well. You can't mentally just fall flat in that game for the last game of the season.
I completely agree with you, and you can't 100% blame Carson Wentz. You can maybe give him 60% of the blame if you want, maybe 75%, but 25 at least needs to go to the coaching staff. One, the coaching staff handpicked Carson Wentz to lead this team last year. Frank Reich, he's the one that came out and said they wanted Carson Wentz. They traded for him. They gave up I think they gave up a first round pick for him, if I'm not mistaken. They at least gave up a second. Maybe it was a second that turned into
second
a
and
first.
third. Yeah.
But I think one of them went up a round if he played at least 75% of the snaps or something. Anyway, they handpicked this guy, and not only if your quarterback is not performing, you need to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the leading rusher in the NFL. Just hand him the ball every single time. Make Carson Wentz throw 4-yard passes. Don't have your T.Y. Hilton running streaks down the field if your quarterback can't make those throws, or if he's not having the time to make the throws. I'll give him that. The offensive line didn't play very good that game.
And that goes again, offensive line coaching in the center, coaching wide receivers, coaching the quarterback. Everything having to do with coaching and the development team, and everything to do with the personnel on the Indianapolis Colts for last game of the season. And I felt that during that last one of the season, they were beating the Patriots. They're being really good teams. Patriots aren't the best team, but still, they're the Patriots. Bill Belichick. But they were beating really, really good teams too. And I felt like they were going to go deep in the playoffs, and then just to come out like that, we just watched the highlights, literally, of that Colts game, and we just saw everything that happened, everything that went down. They went for fourth downs like 3 times early in the game too, and they tried running it twice, and then they passed it once, but they didn't get it. Like Carson Wentz been a horrible read on one of those fourth down plays, and then they didn't get the run. So who's to blame? I mean, Carson Wentz mainly, like you said, we just said, but it's just shameful to have that happen when you're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and because I kind of want to stick with the Colts for a minute, because the Colts didn't have a very big offseason. I mean, they obviously got Matt Ryan, who's going to be miles better than Carson Wentz, in my opinion, and I'm sure your opinion. Matt Ryan, I mean, he's only a few years off his MVP year. So I think and you got to think of what he's been dealing with in Atlanta. Like Julio's gone, Calvin Ridley's been either hurt, taking mental breaks, or obviously suspended this year. But so he's going to a place. Granted, they don't have the greatest wide receiver core in Indianapolis, but he's going to a top 5 O line in the NFL. He's never had that. He's going to a top 10 defense in the NFL. You could even argue that they're a top 5 defense. And not only that, they've improved this offseason. Granted, they haven't made a lot of big signings and stuff, but they did just their tight end retired, so they just got Mo Alley Cox. They also signed a offensive tackle. They got a linebacker in Zaire Franklin. They got a defensive end, Tyquan Lewis, and Yannick Ngakoue. So he's coming back to the AFC South. He used to be a Jaguar. He's going to be looking for at least 2 games a year to put up career numbers against Jacksonville to make us look stupid for getting rid of him. Yeah. And they also got a backup corner.
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest names in the signings, except Yannick Ngakoue. And Ngakoue is a pretty good player. And he's going to be helpful for that defense a lot. But also, Matt Ryan's never had a defense in his whole career with the Atlanta Falcons. and he's never had an offensive line. Like the only good offensive line was that Super Bowl year, and maybe the year after that. That's about it. He's never really had a good O line, a top five O line like the Indianapolis Colts bring to the table. And I think he's just gonna excel. I can't wait to see Matt Ryan. We're gonna go to the game this year,
Yeah.
that Colts Jaguars game in Jacksonville. So I can't wait to see him play. And it's gonna be really fun. I think the Colts should make the playoffs. If they don't, it's gonna be a big disappointment, and that's gonna have to point some fingers at the coaching staff and not because of the quarterback anymore. You can't make that excuse anymore. You got a
Right.
very well top 10 quarterback, and you should make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Indianapolis Colts, they definitely need to win this year. They at least need to make the playoffs this year. And really that'd be good for Matt Ryan because they would most likely extend him and give him some more money if they do make the playoffs. Something Carson Wentz wasn't able to do. And really he had him there. I don't want to say he had him there. The Colts were there. It's just the whole team fumbled the bag. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a touchdown in those last 5 games, and he had I think 2 in the last game of the season. Maybe he only had 1. It was a Marvin Jones toe tap in the back of the end zone with the really insane catch, but I can't remember if he had another one that game. But regardless, the Jacksonville Jaguars were one of the lowest scoring teams in the NFL last year, and they scored like 27 or 28 points on them. And they were only able to score 3 before the fourth quarter, and then they were finally able to score a touchdown on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, that play in the back of the end zone, that should have never happened. You pressured Trevor Lawrence in the face. You can't that's your big defining play to get your momentum back if you're the Colts. That's the play you need to be able to secure the turnover or secure an incompletion or
Yeah.
something and force a field
Flip
goal.
the switch. Flip the switch on the momentum of the game.
Exactly. This is the
But
team with
that's
the number 1 overall pick. How do you
Yeah.
can't do that. You can't. It's mind blowing.
like I said, you can place a lot of the blame on Carson Wentz that game, but it was both sides of the ball that failed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the Colts they found they fixed their quarterback issue, so I expect to make the playoffs. It's gonna be interesting to see. Today we got more big news. This is probably big news for the NFC South. Bruce Arians, he just retired from coaching, and he joins the Buccaneers, but he joins the Buccaneers front office, and Todd Bowles becomes the new head coach. Now, if you remember, Todd Bowles was the head coach for the New York Jets for a year or two. So, and he didn't do well as the head coach. But now Bruce Arians retiring forces Todd Bowles, and they do like Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles was a very good defensive coach for the Bucs. Like he's a really good defensive coach. And now, what does this say for Brady? What does this say for the team in general? Because Bruce Arians is a really good coach. Like his coaching was one of the reasons why they made it to the Super Bowl in Tom Brady's first year on the Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so I've not followed Bruce Arians a whole lot. I know he had a coaching career in the beginning with the Arizona Cardinals, but I really respect the move to give Todd Bowles a true shot. And I know I was reading some articles on it earlier. A lot of coaches get put in the position of a terrible team and they're expected to flip it. And Todd Bowles has an awesome opportunity right now to where he's basically coaching the exact team that made the playoffs last year. They've lost a couple pieces here and there, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same playoff team from last year. He's getting a chance to coach them. Bruce Arians, and that has gained some of my respect. And like I said, I don't know much about him from before the Buccaneers. I know he coached at the Arizona Cardinals, took a break for health reasons, but I really like what he did, giving Todd Bowles a legit shot at being a head coach.
Yeah. I'm interested to see Todd Bowles' second, like his chance in Buccaneer on Tampa Bay as a head coach. I think he's gonna do well just because you have Tom Brady and you have other weapons back on offense.
Yeah.
So I don't think he has to worry about that too much. He can even let Tom Brady kind of control his own thing. But also he's a really good defense coordinator. They did lose a couple defensive pieces as well. They're not the same defense as they were in the Super Bowl. And definitely he was given a new 5-year head coaching salary.
Yeah.
And they dropped his defensive coordinator salary just to hire him for a new head coaching salary. And
So he's the head coach now. I mean, it's not a 1 year thing.
yeah, they fully believe that he's gonna be the head coach for this Buccaneers team for a while. Even if
I'm
Brady's there or not.
I'm actually really interested in this. I've seen a lot of speculation. Todd Bowles was up for head coaching jobs. He interviewed with quite a few of the teams that just hired head coaches. But there's also another coach on their roster that was also interviewed by a few teams, and that's Byron Leftwich, their offensive coordinator. So I'm curious to see what the discussions were on why Todd Bowles got the nod over Byron Leftwich. I've seen some say Todd Bowles is a little bit more chiseled because he has been a head coach in the past. Um, I've also seen some say that this is Todd Bowles' last chance at being a head coach. So they're giving him the opportunity. Byron Leftwich is a younger coach in the league, so he's going to have plenty of opportunity. He already had a lot of like interviews, and it was kind of a shoo-in for Jacksonville, it seemed, because he had been a quarterback there. But we ended up going the Doug Peterson role instead. So curious to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I I think the Buccaneers front office. I think they liked Todd Bowles so much, and they really wanted him to replace Bruce Arians. I think that was their plan for the last few years. Bruce Arians probably told them he was going to retire, and they were like already planning this. And I think they already preferred Todd Bowles over Byron Leftwich, even though Byron Leftwich, he was a really good offensive coordinator for them. And definitely, it's interesting to wonder if he was in the conversations for the head coaching gig as well. Um, but I honestly believe that Todd Bowles got the gig because he was a really good defensive coach. He played well. He knew Bruce Arians well. Bruce Arians really talked to him well, and they were close. Not too close, but they were as close as one can be on the same team. So
Right.
I think that was a big factor leading into Todd Bowles and not Byron Leftwich being the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless, they're going to be a playoff team. I think part of that could also be getting a defensive-minded head coach because Tom Brady can run your offense for at least this year.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly the reasoning too. So much.
we'll go ahead and move to the AFC West. Actually, no, the NFC South. We're going to stay there. The Saints have just signed former Chiefs safety Daniel Sorensen to a 1 year deal.
Daniel Sorensen, um, it's a really good signing by the Saints. Daniel Sorensen played really well for Chiefs. Probably not as good as some other safeties, but he is decent enough for them. And to let him go for agency, it's another hole for them because Tyrann Mathieu left too. So it's another big hole for that Chiefs defense. Their secondary isn't the same anymore. And Patrick Mahomes can only carry you so much. But for the Saints side of this, they're picking up really good safety, and I think they knew Malcolm Jenkins was going to retire. This is why this deal even happened. That's why they signed him and another safety a week ago. So definitely they knew Malcolm Jenkins was retiring. So definitely it's good. I guess we could just talk about the Malcolm Jenkins retiring too, since we're on it.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely Malcolm Jenkins was a really good safety. I've seen a lot of his stuff from the Eagles, and definitely was a hard hitting safety, and he got a lot of interceptions, and he played amazing for the Eagles, and was just always someone who was a veteran leader in that locker room for the Eagles, and even coming to the Saints for a couple of years too, I believe.
Yeah, I was honestly a little shocked to hear it. I mean, obviously 13 years in the NFL is a long time. A lot of wear and tear on your body, especially for positions not named quarterback or kicker. I mean, you see them guys having 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 plus seasons, but really like the defensive side of the ball and O linemen always kind of, I mean, like Brandon Linder just retired after 8 years. So, I mean, you can see the wear and tear on your body is different for those positions.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what players decide and how their limit is because you never know. At the end of the day, Calvin Johnson retired early, Andrew Luck, those were two different retirings because Calvin Johnson could have played so much longer. Andrew Luck same way, but he did have some really big injuries that Calvin Johnson didn't have, and that's I know for a fact that was a big reason why Andrew Luck retired because he got injured a lot and just that's when the Colts didn't have a line either. And it's just kind of sad now to see that the Colts actually have top five line and Andrew Luck can't really reap the benefits of that.
But at the same time, I think they got that because of Andrew Luck. They had a really, I mean, elite quarterback that they didn't get to keep for, Matt Ryan size years, like 12, 13 years at least. You didn't get to see him turn into like a Tom Brady where he's playing 20 years in the league, or Drew Brees, or Phillip Rivers even. He got bullied behind a terrible offensive line, but he kind of paved the way for the new quarterbacks that come because they learned their lesson.
Yeah. So it kind of helped the Colts as well. And big reason why they have that very good offensive line now, one of the best in the NFL. And going back to the Chiefs, they just signed linebacker Jermaine Carter. Um, and Jermaine Carter, before this, his entire career he spent with the Carolina Panthers. So this is a new scenery for Jermaine Carter. And Jermaine Carter, he's decent. He's gonna be backup. But I think he might start for the Chiefs. So he's decent. He's speedy too. So whatever they can do to help that defense, the Chiefs need it.
Yep. And then the NFL announced quite a few changes today, between today and yesterday. The NFL announced there's an addition to the Rooney Rule. So now all the NFL clubs are required to have a minority offensive assistant. So all 32 teams will have to have a minority offensive assistant now for their teams.
Yeah, and also with that, women are now included in
Yes.
all Rooney
Yep.
Rule requirements. So it's not just minorities people have to consider now. Women are also included, which is a long time coming and a good thing for the
Yeah.
whole NFL because women can coach now, and it's going to be really interesting too now to see the first ever woman head coach. That would
Yeah.
be really, really interesting.
This is a good step for that. I think it's going to be a while before we see that, just personally. Um, I mean, you already see now where it's a struggle just to get African Americans to be head coaches now. I think Todd Bowles is like number 3 or 4 this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it might be a while before we see women being head coaches, but it shouldn't be that long. I mean, this is a good step towards that.
Yeah, and another big thing on the Rooney Rule, I have the statement right here pulled up. And I'm gonna go over it a little bit. The league and clubs reaffirmed their commitment and launched a number of new initiatives. First being the offensive assistant coach, and a formal resolution was adopted to provide greater opportunities for diverse candidates to serve as offensive coaches. Beginning this season, all 32 clubs will employ a diverse person, female or a member of an ethnic or racial minority, to serve as an offensive assistant. This person will receive a 1-year contract and work closely with the head coach and offensive staff to gain experience. Clubs will receive reimbursement from a league-wide fund towards the coach's salary for up to 2 years. In recent years, head coaches have predominantly had offensive backgrounds. We believe this resolution will assist greatly in continuing to source and identify diverse candidates earlier in their career, providing depth and furthering developing the diverse offensive pipeline. And then also, they made a statement of ownership diversity. Following a discussion among all 32 clubs, they adopted the below statement. The NFL member clubs support the important goal of increasing diverse ownership, and they just talk all about that. But it really brings the question, why? We talked about this in one of our early podcasts too. Brian Flores, why did he get fired? He was only one of 2 black head coaches in the NFL as of before Todd Bowles got
Yeah,
the head
and he
coaching
was
job.
a good head coach too. I mean, he had winning seasons. He just got signed out of our notes for some reason.
Yeah, he had 2 winning seasons, and he led them from like a 1-7 start to win like 8 straight. That's insane. Like that, I don't. It's been so long since that happened, but still, it feels like the NFL is forcing things, and I don't think that's gonna help at all. I don't think it's gonna help too much. There's got to be a point where owners, because a lot of owners, I bet they're not even caring about this. They just like, okay, we have to do it. We have to do it. But at the end of the day, the owners are gonna have to look at all head coaches, no matter what race they are.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I just got logged out of Google, so I
Oh,
need
you're good.
to pull up our notes again.
You're good. Yeah, and it's really big because over however many years the NFL has been, it's like, why do we see predominantly white coaches in this league when there's someone obviously better? There's obviously right now there's some coaches that aren't as good as some black coaches. Like Byron Leftwich could be a coach for
Yeah.
any team. He's probably better than some head coaches right now that are on the team.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And also, what I was going to say about Brian Flores, he had I mean, well, I don't know if his first season was a winning season in Miami, but the last two were winning seasons, and he just barely lost lost his playoff spot. Like in the last game or two of the season was when he lost it. And I also agree. I just think it's weird that he was fired because, I mean, he was winning games despite ownership not wanting to win games, it seemed like.
Yeah, and we still don't know if it's true, but I'm kind of on the side of like that probably is true. Like he wanted to pay Brian Flores to lose games so that have a better draft stock. I mean, you got to be looking at ownership. It's surprising that this just is you see how fast this went away. Like no
Yeah.
one's even talking about it anymore, and it's kind of sad at this point because like that was such a big thing. There people were supposed to complain and nothing came of it. So I don't know if anything's going to change soon.
Yeah, that's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on, really.
Yeah. And another big news. The NFL they changed their playoff rules, and in overtime in the playoffs, both teams will get a possession of football. So how this works is when the teams go into overtime, the receiving team, if they score a touchdown, then the other team still gets a chance to get the ball and score a touchdown. And if they both get a touchdown, the next score wins. So basically, regular overtime rules. As soon as they tie again.
I'm a huge fan of this. I think we were both kind of in agreement that we think at least. I know you can't change rules for each game, but I would have loved to seen Josh Allen get a shot with the ball in overtime against the Chiefs.
Same as well for that Super Bowl. It would have been interesting to see Matt Ryan get another chance as well in that Super Bowl.
In the overtime game, yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. If Matt Ryan actually got a chance, I think he leads that team down to tie the game at least. I don't know if they win it, but he ties it again.
Yeah, they say like 70 or 80% of the teams that get the ball to start off overtime quarter in the playoffs win. Even if it's not on the first possession, it could be after they kick a field goal, the other team kicks a field goal, and they drive down and score. But they get multiple shots at winning the game still if they score the first time.
Exactly, and it's such a high rate. It's really crazy. So I'm glad that this is actually a really good rule. I'm glad they just didn't go, oh, we're gonna do college OT rules. I don't care for college OT rules because it's just going back and forth and back and forth. There's gotta be a clear winner, and I'm glad once in overtime both teams get a chance, and if they both get a touchdown, tie it, next score wins like regular OT rules. Yeah, at least both of you have a chance to tie, and now you have to rely on your defense. So that's going to be interesting to see. I'm actually really excited to see that.
I wish it could have came last year because that was such a good game. I didn't want it to end. I really didn't want that game to end.
I know. And another part of that rule is if the if the receiving team, the defensive side, gets a safety, they win automatically. The defensive side. So, it's also really interesting because imagine they because this rule's out now. It's a new rule. Imagine now no team goes to overtime in the playoffs this year. Oh man, it's gonna suck so much. I think there's gonna be
Yeah.
one game where it's gonna come into play, and then it's gonna be controversial again. But who knows? It's gonna be fun to see.
I agree with the way they did it this time, where it's just playoffs, because the playoffs are a one and done. You know, you don't get a shot. You know, in week 3, I don't think this needs to be a rule, because you still have 15 other games where you can try to come back and make your playoff spot. But the playoffs are one and done. And just like I said, I understand where some people are saying the defense needs to step up. It's a team game. The defense got to step up. But why are we not making the other team's defense step up?
Yeah, and it comes a defense wins championships, and that's the point. I think that also because of ties now. That's why they didn't do it in the regular season, because it's less of a chance for teams to get a
Yeah.
teams to get a tie if this happens. And I think it would. I don't think it would help the regular season even. It would just more for that one and done type games in the playoffs.
Yeah. I just wish we could go back in time and have this rule for the Bills and Chiefs game, man. Because whoever got the ball at overtime was winning that game. If it would have been the Bills getting the ball, they were winning that game. There's nothing the Chiefs could have done to stop the Bills, just like there was nothing the Bills could do to stop the Chiefs.
The funny thing is that Josh Allen called that toss.
Yeah.
That was a funny thing too.
Maybe
He could
you
have,
need to get.
and he said he always does tails. Oh my god, he should just pick heads.
Oh, it's rigged then. It's rigged then. That the NFL knew Josh Allen would call tails, so they made it land on heads so Patrick Mahomes could get a
That's
shot
a
at
little
it.
outlandish. I don't think the NFL ref knows how to do a magic trick with a coin.
The Bills would have beaten the Bengals in the AFC Championship. That's the real story here.
Ooh, I think so too. No, the Bills for sure would have won a game if they made.
They had a
the
better
championship.
defense.
Yeah,
The defense was the issue for the Chiefs.
exactly. And Bills had a better defense than Chiefs all the way, and somehow let them score in 13 seconds. Unbelievable, very unbelievable. And yeah, so definitely this is going to be a very interesting thing to see next year in the playoffs. So I'm already excited. Only a few more months away from the
I
from
know.
preseason, and it's crazy because we're already in April. I'm excited. The
If
draft's going to come, and then summer, and yeah,
if you guys are watching this, tell us how to get field passes.
yeah.
We've been trying to Google it, and like all the websites kind of say the same thing. You need to get like a premium ticket, but obviously right now, like websites aren't showing ticket prices and stuff, so like we have no idea what to even look for. But we really want to get field passes. We want to go to training camp. We want to go to games. Like, I don't know. This is probably the most excited I've been about football in a long time.
Yeah, we're gonna have so much footage for you guys, especially in training camp. We're also gonna make videos about it and stuff like that. But yeah, the NFL playoff overtime rule is gonna be crazy. Let us know if you guys know how to get field passes. If you help us out, definitely we have something in it for you. Definitely merch to go check them out. But yeah, definitely these overtime rules are gonna be interesting. And going to the NFC, we're gonna get into our signings for this week. There wasn't too many, but definitely some interesting signings and returning players to the teams. And first is Patrick Peterson. He's returning to the Vikings on a 1-year contract, $4 million. And Patrick Peterson, he's a declining, aging corner. He didn't play the greatest last year, and I remember when Patrick Peterson was a really, really good corner. So we'll see. He might, if he plays well this year, he might stay with Vikings. If he doesn't, he's gonna get cut.
Yeah, he's a good veteran presence on the team. So this is good for them. I mean, I mean, if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. If he gets hurt, it doesn't affect him. So this is good for both of them.
Yeah, and Clemson cornerback Andrew Booth Jr., a projected first-round pick, recently underwent sports hernia surgery with Dr. William Myers in Philadelphia, but is expected to be ready for the start of training camp. So one of these prospects for cornerback is gonna he might actually drop down to second or third even because of the surgery. Who knows? But there's a decent amount of corners in this draft, and I don't think he's top three corner, so definitely has a chance to drop to second round.
Yeah, I really hate when stuff like this happens to college guys, because one, I think the NCAA has started to try to do some things to help their players out. Like obviously now they can sign endorsement deals and stuff to actually make some money while they're in college. But it really sucks watching these guys play college and almost get to the NFL to secure the bag, and then they get hurt right beforehand, and that affects their pay because those of you that are kind of new to the NFL, the higher up on the draft board that they get, the more money they get.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. Like another big thing, Jameson Williams, I believe is named, the wide receiver from Alabama. He tore his ACL, so teams aren't even gonna pick him up until
Yeah.
like the later rounds, or not even in later rounds. But he got injured, so that sucks for him. He was the top wide receiver prospect too, so he was gonna go. He was the first wide receiver gonna go off the board, and that's gonna be something to look for as well. And going to the AFC, um, John Harbaugh of the Ravens just signed a 3-year extension. Very good coach. Ravens are securing their head coach for the future and hopefully see what they can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is so they're securing their coach, and I believe next they will attempt to secure Lamar Jackson. He's one of the few quarterbacks that we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with him. I think he stays a Raven. There's not a doubt in my mind he stays a Raven. Um, John Harbaugh has proven that he's willing to design an offense around Lamar Jackson. Really, I like the move because I don't think there's a better coach right now for the Ravens than John Harbaugh, sorry.
Yeah, and John Harbaugh is just a good fit for the Ravens, and it's cool to see him like get this extension. Hopefully the can use Ravens can make a run for the playoffs, but that AFC is so stacked, and Lamar isn't as accurate as a lot of those quarterbacks, and that's still worrisome. But he can still play, so and he's improved a lot, so it's gonna be really fun to see him. He's just a dynamic player, and yeah, Ian's gonna read you a quote that Lamar said on rumors of Lamar leaving the Ravens.
Yeah, so there's a lot of rumors on Twitter that Lamar might leave because it's very rare for a quarterback in his fourth year not to be wanting more money. And Lamar hasn't even talked money to the Ravens organization, and the owner of the Ravens came out and said that. Um, but anyway, Lamar has seen these rumors on Twitter, and he came out with a tweet this morning and said, "I love my Ravens. I don't know who the hell putting that false narrative out that I'm having thoughts about leaving. Stop trying to read my mind."
Yeah, so this is just built up frustration. Lamar is definitely staying in the Ravens. There was no doubt about that. But it's going to be really interesting to see what contract he gets now that Deshaun Watson got signed for $230 million. Him and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray already wants a contract. So I that's just because of that, Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed. He's not Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady either. So that's just even
Yeah.
crazier. Tom Brady specifically takes pay cuts so that they can sign more people, and that's why he wins more Super Bowls. That's obviously the reason. And definitely, it's going to be interesting to see the market for these quarterbacks.
Yeah. The wide receiver market's already going to be crazy
Yeah,
with Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill making that much money, Devontae Adams making that much money. No, I don't think the guys coming up are going to be worth what these guys are. But I mean, you got to think DK Metcalf's coming up on a contract year. Damn, I should have. Let me look that up. Okay, You can talk on the next one. I'm going to look up the wide receiver.
Yeah, so Ian's looking that up. Definitely, Jabril Peppers signed a 1-year deal with the Patriots. And he's expected to be ready for training camp after an ACL injury. I thought Jabril Peppers on the Giants was a really good pickup for Giants, and Jabril Peppers is a hell of a player. And he can play. He's a really good safety, and he can play. So this helps the Patriots a lot with their defense. J.C. Jackson left. They tried to sign some cheap players for their defense, and it's still unknown what Bill Belichick's going to do in the draft, because I think he's preparing to start a lot of those people in the draft for his team, because I don't think he wants to lose in the playoffs or even miss the playoffs. Even Robert Kraft himself said that it sucks not being able to win a playoff game.
I did find it. I'm quoting a tweet, so if this is wrong, it is from a verified source, Jacob71. He's verified on Twitter. Looking ahead to 2023, so this is next offseason. The free agent wide receivers they can get extended, they can get tagged, blah, blah, blah. But as of right now, it's DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, Deebo Samuel, Paris Campbell of the Colts, Deontay Johnson, who's kind of come up this past year from the Steelers, and Hunter Renfrow. Like I said, these guys are not the talent. Well, Deebo Samuel, he's a top 5 wide receiver in the league, in my opinion, based on his skill set. I'm not saying his stats and everything, but the fact he can be used out of the backfield, out of the slot, out of the outside. I mean, you could literally use him anywhere on the field. That's why he's a top 5 wide receiver for me. Even Jalen Ramsey today on a podcast said that. But besides that, you got Deebo, who can make Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill money, in my opinion. Like, that's worth it for a team. But DK Metcalf, he's going to be seeking upwards of that amount of money, in my opinion, because he's young. He's got a lot of upside. He's strong, fast, athletic. He's got everything you want a number 1 wide receiver. So I think there's going to be a wide receiver needy team willing to pay him, similar to the Jaguars paid Christian Kirk. Kind of overpaid for him a little bit. Granted, the contract was really team friendly, but these guys, I mean, Terry McLaurin, he's one of the fastest wide receivers in the league. He's going to want money just because of that.
Yeah, this redshirt market is going to be crazy. Scary Terry is probably going to ask for some money, and he's gonna be, and I believe he's the true number one wide receiver. Like, he can play. He makes the contested catches. He does everything you need from him as a wide receiver 1. And also Hunter Renfrow, I don't think he's gonna ask for Devontae Adams money, and he probably knows that situation. I think he's gonna ask for a little bit, but I think they can get him because he loves the organization too much. I think Hunter Renfrow is gonna stay on the team for a while.
I think he's similar to Cooper Kupp in the way Cooper Kupp has always been like a good wide receiver, but he's got a quarterback that really connects with him. I think he's got that with Derek Carr. So I don't think he tries to pursue a lot of money elsewhere. But they might pay him some money. I don't know. Like I said, the wide receiver market's going to be crazy next year.
Yeah, and just from the names you list, Deontay Johnson, even up-and-coming receiver, Juju's gone. He's going to be relied on even more as well as Chase Claypool too.
Yeah, they could both see career years this year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how. I'm really excited to see Mitch Trubisky play, and hopefully he plays well.
I know,
dude. Honestly, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool could both be 2,000-yard receivers this season.
Good, yeah, especially if they design an offense that works with Mitchell Trubisky, because that's kind of been the downside of Mitchell Trubisky. He's never been in a system that is good for him. Now, the Steelers, in the past, Ben Roethlisberger was really good at play-action passes. He's gotten older. He doesn't move like he used to. So they kind of abandoned play-action passes in his final 2 years. And Mitchell Trubisky is still young, athletic. He can do the play-action passes. With Najee Harris in the back and doing a play-action pass to Najee Harris, you have to respect Najee Harris. So yeah. I think both receivers are going to have good years.
And Mitchell Trubisky isn't like a non-mobile quarterback. He's a kind of mobile quarterback too. He can run if he needs to, so it's gonna work perfectly, and it's gonna be fun to see to play. Najee Harris was so fun to watch last year. He only fumbled once, and before that, he rarely ever fumbled. So he's not Najee Harris kind of like that Derrick Henry physical back, and he's just a rookie. This is his second year now, so it's gonna be even more fun to see him play.
Yeah, I'm super excited to watch the Steelers this year, and I'm a Jags fan, so I hate the Steelers.
Yeah. And the last piece of news we have for today, the Detroit Lions have been named as the feature for Hard Knocks this year.
Yeah, this is a good team to watch in Hard Knocks, in my opinion, because I really like Dan Campbell as a head coach. I know you've said it too on our past episodes. I think he's got a lot of heart, and you don't see that a lot with coaches. Kind of see this like stiff, like Bill Belichick kind of feel, where they're not like jumping up and down on the sidelines. I mean, you could even argue like Andy Reid doesn't really do that. Pete Carroll's not going to jump up and down on the sidelines a whole bunch. He kind of has in the past few years, but you see these like older head coaches that don't really, they don't look like they're in the game, obviously, but they're not showing all that emotion like players do. And I think Dan Campbell has a lot of emotion that he plays with or coaches with. I think he's got a lot of heart. I kind of gives me Sean McVay vibes, or kind of a player's coach. So I think a lot of people are going to want to play there, and I'm going to really enjoy watching Hard Knocks this year.
I really think the Lions players love Dan Campbell, and interesting thing with Dan Campbell too. Like when he was crying when like they lost that game to the 66-yard field goal of the Ravens. He started crying, and I showed it to my friend, and he just didn't like it. He was like, "Oh, why is he crying? He's not showing manliness." I'm like, this is 2022. I mean, like in regardless, even if it's 2022 or not, men should be able to show their emotions. Like you can't discredit a grown man like that for showing his feelings because he's really passionate about his team. And it was just like weird because we're not in the olden days anymore. Like masculinity isn't as big as it once was. Like you don't have to cower or shroud your feelings at all. So, but
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think Hard Knocks is gonna be good for Detroit Lions. It's gonna be really fun to watch. I hope they do in season Hard Knocks again because that Indianapolis Colts Hard Knocks was so good. I actually didn't watch the last two episodes, and I know one of them's that Jaguars lost, and I really want to go see it now.
You know who they should do in season next year, right?
The Falcons. No, just kidding. They should go towards the AFC West, but.
Go to the Jaguars.
No, you don't go to Jaguars. Of course you do. No.
They should have done the Jaguars last year. That would have been the most entertaining Hard Knocks of all time.
Oh yeah,
Urban Meyer. Yeah. Urban Meyer kicking players, man.
Wait, to be fair, I don't think he would have done any of that if he was on Hard Knocks. So he might have actually been that Jaguars head coach this year if he was on Hard Knocks.
Dude, actually, funny story. So the place I used to work at, we got to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium like a couple weeks after he was hired as a head coach, and he gave a speech. And we got to ask questions, but we didn't all get to. There was like a couple hundred of us, but we all like kind of sent in our questions for one person to stand up at the podium and ask. And someone asked, "There's going to be Hard Knocks in season this year for the first time. Would you like the Jaguars to be on that?" And he said, "I don't want the publicity. I don't want the distraction in the locker room of there being a Hard Knocks." I kid you not. I wish I would have been recording. I really wish I would have been recording. He said, "I don't want the distraction of Hard Knocks in the locker room." I can't make. I mean, I could make it up, but I'm not making it up. I promise.
Oh my god, that's insane. I mean, he just lied flat out right there. There's a reason why he didn't want the Hard Knocks on Jacksonville Jaguars that year. It's because what he does behind the camera and in bars.
Yeah, Could you imagine the camera being like, "Oh, Urban Meyer's not getting on the plane. Let's see where he's going."
And then he's in a bar and someone's grinding on him. Oh my god, that'd be so.
What a head coach.
I
He
know.
swindled the Jacksonville Jaguars of like $10 million, basically.
Yeah, and to be honest, too, another good team would have been the Las Vegas Raiders with everything that happened with
That's
Henry Ruggs too, and
true.
John Gruden, and our defensive players as well. God.
Yeah, they had like 3 different players arrested last year.
But it was also
Yeah.
cool to see the Colts on there because that last game of the season, like they just picked,
Yeah.
they kind of picked out something.
I'm glad
good.
you reminded me of that. I need to watch the last episode.
Yeah, I missed the like 2 or 3 episodes, but I was watching consistently every week, and it's so interesting to see and delve into the coaches' meetings. It actually feels like they're in school or like actually like a fun school
Yeah.
where they're actually just learning stuff. So definitely
Yeah,
really fun to see.
maybe we'll be featured on Hard Knocks one time.
One day.
Maybe we'll be our own Hard Knocks, the PI podcast Hard Knockers.
Okay, that's pretty weird, pretty off name, but okay. Oh man, yeah. Anything else, Ian?
No, I don't know. I think that was pretty good. I'm really curious to see. I'm glad we got to talk about the Jaguars a little bit. With the big, I think it's a big signing of Arden Key. I typed that wrong. But because, like I said, it does not lock us into Hutchinson on one. I think we'd be I think it's Hutchinson or Evan Neal. I really think those are the two because we did do a lot of offensive line, but we're still kind of lacking at right tackle, left guard, and center. I'm not saying you should draft Evan Neal 1 and then move him to center or left guard, but possibly draft him and then rescind the tag on Cam or trade him. I think there's a lot of teams that would be willing to trade for Cam Robinson on a franchise tag deal to finish off the season, especially if someone gets hurt. Someone like the Bengals, they just signed 3 offensive linemen. If one of them gets hurt in the middle of the season, why not trade for Cam Robinson, right?
Yeah, exactly. And definitely I want to end the podcast on a hot take. So I believe Marcus Mariota will be a top 7 quarterback in the NFC this year, and he's going to lead the Falcons to a playoff game and win a playoff game.
Wow.
Yup. I think Arthur Smith knows Marcus Mariota well and knows his play style, and he fits perfectly in that scheme with Arthur Smith. And Arthur Smith's a schemer. Look what he did with Cordell Patterson that no one else has been able to do.
I do think I'll give you that. Marcus Mariota and Cordell Patterson are going to be really good in the backfield.
I'm really excited to see a mobile quarterback. I haven't seen that ever as a Falcon fan, and I'm just really excited.
Well, you gotta also say you weren't watching football when Michael Vick was.
Yeah, I wasn't watching football when Michael Vick, but Michael Vick was electric. And I'm glad because that dogfight thing, I was sure I don't know how to deal with that, but. Yeah,
that's one thing. As a fan of the game, I understand they're just allegations, but I would not be comfortable rooting for my team if they were willing to sign a quarterback like Deshaun Watson until it's cleared. And I understand innocent until proven guilty, but it's not like it's one person.
Yeah, it's 23. Like. That's a lot of people accusing him. I honestly think he didn't do most of them are lying, but it's 23. There's a lot. That's like overwhelming amount. I don't know how you move on with that. I don't think that's gonna define him for the rest of his career and kind of garnish his image too. So, and it already did garnish his image. So,
if one of them is real, like if one of them's not a lie,
I meant tarnish, not garnish.
Yeah. But yeah, like if one of them is real, like it's disgusting.
Yeah. And well, I mean, Big Ben got away with it, but
yeah, but he wasn't. Was he proven?
I don't know. I
I don't remember.
I don't
That was
remember.
before my time, kind of.
But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in the NFL that's gotten away with it.
Yeah, 100%. But they also probably went about it smarter than Deshaun Watson went about it.
Yeah.
He was messaging girls on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody knows if you want to get away with something, you do it on Snapchat because it deletes your messages.
God. Oh my God.
I heard that on MMG Live tonight.
Damn. Okay, one day we'll have MMG on here to prove it. All right. Anyways, guys, Ian, thank you. Thank myself as well. We're always gonna be.
I would like to thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much again for 600 followers on TikTok. I'm looking at it now, we're nearing 700 already, so I don't even know. It's crazy. So thank you guys for that support. Make sure you leave notifications on YouTube so you know when we go live on YouTube. Definitely so you don't miss a live podcast ever. I think we talked about it. We're gonna just do every podcast live. So
Yeah.
I think that gives more people a chance to discover our channel and live, so they can ask questions about our channel or even ask questions about their favorite team.
Yeah, and this way, the stuff we're talking about is relevant right now because what we were having issues with in the first couple episodes, we were like talking, or like let's just say that Deshaun Watson, for instance, if we were doing an episode and recording it in the future, we would talk about Deshaun Watson potentially going to the Falcons, but then the next day he'd be on the Browns, and we still were only like we'd have to record a whole new episode almost just to talk about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and so this live really helps. And if you guys are enjoying it, definitely leave a like on the stream, leave a like on the video in general. And really helps us out and lets us know that you guys are liking the podcast. So we're gonna keep pulling them out, bringing them out. And tomorrow you guys will see a reaction video. Not gonna spoil it, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, but you guys will see daily uploads for a little bit because we're starting a new series. So definitely every day at 4 p.m. you're gonna see something. And if there's not a video at 4 p.m. that day, that means there's gonna be a live podcast that day. So definitely.
And our live podcast is going to be 9, 10. Let's say 10. Let's do 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
10 o'clock. All of our podcasts are going to be live at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Exactly. So thank you guys again for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And if you guys have any questions, comment down below. Comment on any of our videos. We'll see it. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at PIPodcasters. And make sure to check out our Linktree if you guys are looking for merch or anything. I know we're just getting started, but we have a lot of cool merch as well. So thank you guys for watching the stream. If you guys have any last minute questions, definitely go ahead and do it now. And we'll see you guys in the next video and the next podcast. Ian likes to play with the viewers a little bit. He's shining his eyebrows. Don't be Deshaun Watson now, Ian.
That is so, I'm not Deshaun Watson. That's so bad. Oh my god.
Don't lean massage parlors now.
Okay, end it.
And I have to end it. Okay. Peace, guys. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you for watching the PI Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and tune in next time so you don't miss the latest news in the NFL world. You can also follow us on TikTok at PI Podcast and on Twitter at PI Podcasters. Until